Hello. Welcome back to Snapshots and Stories. Oh my gosh, it
Mhm.
seems like just minutes ago we were talking.
Yeah,
Oh my
yeah.
gosh, we are so excited about today's topics. It's a little bit of a continuance on a topic we've been kind of covering all along, but yet there's some variants to this one, and I'm actually going to let Kate take this one because she's got some really cool ideas that we were chatting about. So go ahead, Kate, just chat away. Oh, and by the way, hello to everybody out there on Facebook and YouTube and Rogers Land. Thank you all
Yeah.
for tuning in. We're so glad to see you. And and I got to turn off my address bar. There we go. And we'll bring that up a little later so you can send some photos into us. Sorry, Kate, go ahead.
Yeah. Hey, thanks, Paul. Hi, everyone. Yeah, so Paul and I've been talking a lot lately about inspiration and, you know, if you're in a rut, getting yourself out of a creative rut or, a cold spell. And, I've been kind of just thinking about that, like, well, what is a rut? What is, a period of creative dryness? And it may not always be that. It may not always be like a rut. Maybe it's just a time to just, you could focus on other things, or it's just a period of time where you're just not producing photos or your art, and that's okay. I think I feel like North American society is just so that classic like produce, produce, produce. If you're not constantly creating or, you know, being productive, you're not, maybe you're losing your edge or you're not a real artist or whatever you consider yourself not to be creating. I really don't believe that's the case. Just putting the camera down for a little while is totally fine. It takes all the things that we've been talking about that may inspire you, music, books, poems, different experiences, going different places, maybe taking a break and actually doing those things and, letting ideas build up, letting some things saturate, in your brain. That's good too. And, you can just sit and let them marinate and then see what happens and just don't give yourself a hard time, like there's no pressure. So this happened to me in the winter that just passed, and I was giving myself a bit of a hard time because I live in what I consider to be a really beautiful house. I'm surrounded by artists, uh the other photographers, like Paul and I talk all the time. I have other photographers that I talk to. There's about a month in this winter where I just wasn't taking any pictures. I was just watching a lot of TV, doing some reading, playing the piano, but ultimately just kind of, just that winter slump. And it was March and April that was happening. But I also was aware that, this isn't going to be forever, like something, I know that there is inspiration coming down the road. So I was talking, one day to my friend Tanya, and her and I, when we used to have more time, we would just get in the car and we would just drive. We would just drive and drive until we found something that we hadn't seen before. Hopefully, it was an abandoned house because that was what we would go hunting for, abandoned houses. Maybe it was a waterfall. Maybe it was just something cool. So, anyways, we took this drive. I'm not going to give the location. I just feel unfortunately that you can't really do that anymore. And we found this house, and actually, it was a local that told us about it because we're very cautious of, trespassing and that kind of thing. Like, always knock on the doors before going in. And someone did see us kind of poking around another property, and he approached us. And after we told him what we were doing, he was like, well, he's like, I can tell you that there's a really awesome abandoned house here that looks like the people had just left on Christmas morning, and they left the Christmas tree. There was an organ. There was like Christmas decorations in the house. And that to me is just the angels singing. Christmas angels, apparently. So anyway, so we went to this house. He showed us what the house was. He's like, it looks dangerous from the road. But you can actually just walk right in the front door. So we walked in the front door, and I'm going to show you what we found when we walked in the front door. And so, mind you, again, this was at the end of what I might have been in like a rut for a month or so. I hadn't taken pictures in a while. And so I walk in, and Christmas indeed had been, I think, the last thing that someone saw in this house.
Wow.
Okay, so let me go into my after picture. Okay, so yeah, so this is you walk in the door, you see the Merry Christmas there, you see the Christmas tree, like it's almost like dad played his little Christmas music and then it was just time to go. This was the living
Wow.
room. I mean, it was a dangerous house for sure, but we kind of stayed in the front. But yeah, so
So, so how did you
yeah,
feel when you were in there? Did you feel festive? How did you
it was
feel?
uh it was very anti-Christmas actually. It's very curious. So whenever I go into these places, it's always a feeling of why did you leave everything? I mean, the rooms were full, what we could see, like there was dishes, there was magazines. They
Wow.
literally just left.
Can you go
Stop
back to the
sharing now.
photo that you
Oh,
had with
yeah,
a
sure.
coffee cup on the there, that one? Was that coffee cup there?
That was there. Okay, so that's a great question. We didn't stage anything. This
Okay.
was all like exactly how we found it.
When I see that picture with out of all the photos that you showed,
Yeah.
when I look at that photo with the coffee cup, I mean the Christmas one first of all coming in, that would be the first photo. And
Sure.
I'd walk through
Yeah.
that door, then I would see that keyboard with a coffee cup.
Yes.
It looks like
Yes.
somebody is still there. I
Yes.
get that. And that's why I
Yes.
said to you, did you feel festive? Because if I was to go into a place like that, I would start to think about what was going on at that very
Mm,
moment that that coffee cup was there. What song were they playing? And then I'm looking around at all this Christmas stuff and I think, oh, it had to have been Christmas. So it had to
it
have
was.
been, and then I'm trying to put away all the deterioration of the place and try to envision myself what
Yeah.
it would look like if it was all back together again
Yeah.
and people
Well, you
living in
can,
it, right?
I
That's
don't know if you can
amazing.
see, but there's a Christmas bear on top of that lamp,
The lamp.
and there's a Santa something on Christmassy on the
Oh, I see
floor.
it.
Like
I
there
see it.
were Christmas,
Yeah.
yeah, like there were Christmas decorations throughout the house. But it was a cute little house at one point, with that like little the curved archways in the door. Upstairs you could kind of poke your head up, but it was pretty unsafe. It was kind of the
Wow.
bottom, the basement was full of water.
Wow.
So, anyways,
That's
so
that. Wow. I'm
yeah,
blown away
so
by
that's
that.
that yeah, that was a reward that came, like I said, after just kind of allowing this period of not taking pictures just to kind of happen. And then, you know, I don't know if it was I had just the energy that came with just, ramping up for like we were out all day. Like we were out for hours. And I didn't feel creatively burnt out. I didn't feel like, it just felt so fresh
Yeah.
to have just had that little break and I just kind of flowed with that period. And
Yeah.
yeah. So anyways, I have to say, like if you're going through a rut, maybe just take a step back and just say, like, is this a rut or is this just, do I just need to go live my life for a little while and just let some experiences build up to be inspired
Yeah.
again?
Yeah. Do you ever go back to a place because you get inspired as soon as you're in that environment?
Absolutely. And the thing with abandoned houses too, which in I call it my first love of photography, is that you can go back every season. It's a different story. And now it's been so long. I'm going back to houses that I visited 10 years ago, and they're even more decayed into the ground. So then
Oh
they become
yeah.
a whole different shoot altogether.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
Wow.
really, yeah. I've been thinking of putting together a book for so long, and
So
it's one of
you've
those
got
things. It's
a lot of these type of photos.
oh my gosh, yeah,
You
years of
should
them.
compile something. There's another thing that a lot of photographers think, and in fact, the guy in the last show that sent in the photos, Paul Wood, he's got hundreds of thousands of photos. And when he's talking about, what's going to happen when I'm gone, what's going to happen with these photos. So the only way that you can really leave them in any kind of a form that people would actually look at them, I think, because nobody's going to go into your hard drives and plug them in and usually probably not, maybe once and get bored. But if you put together a book, it's something different about a
Mm-hmm.
book. I had Facebook send me, you know how Facebook would promote, we'll send you memories book. I got
Yes,
them to send me one because
you did that.
I wanted to see what the
Cool.
production was like, and I was blown away to see my photos in print. It is so different than looking at them online or on a computer.
Yeah.
And I was
Yeah.
actually kind of impressed by it. In fact, I
Well,
gave it to my sister as a Christmas gift because she said, I want a
good.
bunch of your photos. I want a bunch of your photos. And I said, well, you know what? Okay, I think I might have something for you. So, but
Well,
what a
yeah,
thing to leave, because then that's something you can leave out
yes,
in and around, and it's
yes,
always there to pick up, right?
yeah.
So,
I thought I heard a theory once that there's no record of very advanced civilizations that actually existed because everything was digital and it got destroyed. So we actually don't have their records.
yeah.
Very abstract theory. I have no like
Well, it's
links or quotes or anything to back that up with. But it's interesting, right? Because, if
yeah,
there's a big melt, all of our pictures are gone.
yeah,
But the prints could remain
yeah.
preserved somewhere.
Yeah, it's funny,
Yeah.
but anyway, well, my friend that I was telling you about, he's a little bit older, and so to him, he's starting to think about those things, so because
Hmm.
he's got granddaughters that he's really close with and that kind of stuff, but that kind of gap in generation, they don't value things the same way that like as older people do. You know what I mean? It's just a generational gap.
Yeah.
It's just the way it is.
Yeah. Yep.
And that's why he was thinking, what can I do with these photos that could keep them in, that kind of stuff. That's where I was just thinking about that. And
Yeah. Yeah.
anyway, it's a funny thought. But when I saw that old
I
abandoned
like it.
house, and I thought about what it was like
Yeah.
when that wasn't an abandoned house and people were living in there, and they were, maybe they were
Hmm.
even the type to dance around the living room when they were, all that stuff.
Right.
So I was looking at the happy side of it, and it's like, wow, that is so cool.
Yes. Well, that's the thing. Like with the organ, it generates like a memory of that was a cheerful room. Like the organ was the center of
Yeah,
the room. There was no TV or no TV stand. Like it was the organ. So I
yeah.
mean, at one point it was hacked, but that makes it even more sad. I found that house particularly sad, but I mean that's why I go there. I kind of like the emotions that go through. But you know what? Speaking of the pictures being left behind, you know what? It's rare, very rare for me ever to find photos left behind. So people, it's funny because it's like, are people taking the photo albums? Like
Good
when you say, oh, if
point.
you run back into your burning house, like what would you grab? People say, oh, my family photo album or whatever. So I don't, I can't think of a house that I found a family photo album left behind.
Isn't that funny? It
Yeah.
just sparked a thought of me. One of the things that people would, and they always say it, if the house is burning, I got to grab photos. I never replace them.
Hmm. Hmm.
But if you have them, you never look at them. Isn't that
Yeah.
funny? Oh,
Yeah.
anyway. I have a place that I like to go to, or myself and my wife, we like to go to, and only because we just love it there so much because of the place that it is. And it's a place that everybody's gone to a gazillion million times. And I could go there every day and still be inspired by it. And it's Peggy's Cove. And
So magical there.
it's just it gives you so much to do, because one minute you can be doing you can be I love taking pictures of people taking pictures, and what a perfect place to do it, because that's all they're all doing. They're all taking pictures, right, of the lighthouse. And so I'm just sitting on a rock and I'm just going click, 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 and I'm getting all these fantastic candid shots of people enjoying
Oh,
themselves, or people maybe not enjoying themselves. I don't want to be in the pit. All that stuff, all those emotions. That's fun. And then you've got all those old buildings and stuff, and all the old boats
yeah.
that have been there. And some are,
Yeah.
nice new coming into the harbor, and then some are deteriorated to the point they're just laying on the
Hmm.
side of the thing. And that's the ones I like to take photos of. So I'm going to show you a photo that I took that I'm in, and it's kind of almost an iconic Peggy's Cove, and it's not the lighthouse. And but I'm going to show it to you here. Just give me a second. I'll get it up. Photo sharing's on. Turn this off. There it is. Okay. So what you're seeing here is an old dory, and the dory is almost split in half. There's actually there's vegetation growing in it, and it's
Love it.
sitting on this rock beside this little bit of water, and the water is reaching out to this very active a wharf, and there's some and it looks out into the ocean between
Mm.
these houses, and it looks out into the ocean. And to me, I'm looking at people. I left a few people like I didn't touch the photo at all, other than what you typically do to edit it. But I wanted just to kind of see all the people that come and go in there, and that boat that's been sitting there, it's almost like your wrecked house or the abandoned house. It's like an
Yeah, I was
abandoned
thinking the
boat,
same thing. It
right?
is, yes.
So now I'm looking at that, and I'm looking at the thousands of people that are walking by it every day, and some notice it and some don't. Some will stop and look at it and think, what about the bones in that boat? What did it
Yeah,
see in its lifetime? What did it
yeah,
see in that harbor?
yeah.
And then yet other people walk by and say, "Oh, why is that old crappy boat there?" But
Yeah.
it's just an interesting photo that that I shot. And every time I go down there, I find one little jewel like this that I'll shoot.
Mm,
Only because when I look at it, it just makes me think about what that place really is and how diverse it is as a photographer to go down there and shoot that. Because you could be shooting boats coming in the harbor, you could be shooting
mhm,
wildlife like birds coming and going. You could be. And one day I went down there and I shot the blue nose right coming right across the
yes.
what do you call it, the lighthouse. So I got the picture of the lighthouse and the blue nose all in
Wow.
one shot, right?
Wow.
Yeah. So, but if that's the kind of place that it is, so yeah, I'm just going to stop sharing that.
The
Uh,
landscape driving into Peggy's Cove too is insane. It's very prehistoric feeling. You don't feel like you're in the Maritimes. You feel like you step back in time somewhere. It's
yeah,
very hardy, very rugged.
yeah, absolutely. It's unbelievable where we can go to get inspired. So sometimes, like you're saying, we need to shut it off. And I do a lot of. I shouldn't say I do. I've done a lot of astrophotography over the years because it was what made my heart beat for about 10
Mm,
years. And I get into a funk with it because the weather plays such a havoc on it, right? So if you don't have clear skies, you can't take pictures. And I got into it so heavy that that it would take sometimes 2 or 3 nights to capture
mm,
one target for me. The amount of data that you need to get on it and all the different filters and
yeah,
stuff. And I got frustrated with waiting and frustrated with unfinished projects and stuff. So
mm,
I just shut off. I just turned off. But at the same time I turned off, I was starting to do this type of photography that I'm doing and showing you now. So it was almost like a
okay.
transformation from uh, one type of photography to another, and it was in lieu of the fact that I needed a break. I lost my mojo, right? It was gone
Sure.
altogether. So by doing this type of photography, how I'm getting tied back into it again is I'm actually going out with smaller rigs. That's something I can take within an hour or two. So if I got an hour or two of sky that's
Okay.
clear, I'll go find a beach. I'll get a nice Milky Way, or I'll do some star trails or something like that. Then I'll have my connection with astronomy and photography all in one. So that's another thing that you can do to be inspired. And it doesn't take a
Well,
lot of money to do it. So
yeah. I love every time that you post because seeing your astral photography is new for me. So I've only known you for about a year and a half or a year.
mhm,
And the one that you posted the other day, the pink one,
mhm,
that was amazing. I find that like that type of photography to me is so deeply emotional. It's almost too much because I just like this is such a reminder of we don't know anything, and also the fact that we can take pictures of that and how beautiful and terrifying it is at the same time.
yeah.
Um, it's really amazing, and I, 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 I honestly sometimes it is too much. I find it such a stark reminder of how tiny we are.
Yeah,
Um, but also, I don't know, but just also, it's just such an amazing human feat that we can take those photos.
yeah. Even to know what's out there. I mean, with the
Yeah,
technology we have now to be able to
yeah,
explore those things. And in fact,
yeah.
even we're exploring them out in spacecrafts all the time now. But
Right.
but I know what you mean. And it's funny you said that because on the Sunday night show that what we do with I do with some Astro buddies, um, I was talking to them about that, about if we think about all the turmoil that's in our lives these days, there's so much going on. And
Mhm.
then to think what it would be like if you could just get into one of those rockets or spacecraft and just go land on the moon and sit in the moon and then look back at the earth, and how much smaller our problems would be. And then if we could go from the moon, say, out to Mars, and as earth gets smaller and smaller and smaller, how insignificant the thoughts
Mhm.
that consume us sometimes really are. And so that's when I look at space, that's kind of what I think. I'm going into a different realm,
Mhm.
and it's either new beginnings or it's history. We don't know, one way or another, because everything that they learn out in space for the most part is theory. So anyway,
I
but
think,
it's just
yeah, yeah. I
yeah.
think there's actually a term for that, for when astronauts go to space and they see the Earth and how small it is. It's called like the blue planet effect or something like that. Like
Mhm.
the realization of, well, seeing Earth from that point of view, it kind of alters their state of mind.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely.
Yeah.
But anyway, that's kind of going off to a different path than what we were talking about. But that's the thing about
All inspiration.
photography and art and anything you do, it just opens up your mind to so many things,
Mm,
you
yeah,
know,
it does.
and you never know where you're going to go.
Yeah. Yeah, it's so true. I
Yeah.
really think photography is everybody's medium. I really do. It's not like, well, I just don't want to say this. I like painting, for example, for me, I'm so intimidated by it. I want to paint, but I feel like there's so many things to paint, right? Like, how do you even choose what kind of paint? Where are you going to paint? Do you have the space in your house to like
Yep.
set up a giant easel to do it? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Literally anyone can have a camera. You have, like you said, you have it on your phone. Go get a camera. Everybody has a style. You have eyes,
Yep.
like, so you see things. Like, just take a picture. Like, I feel it's such a, it's everybody's art form, and I love it when people pick it up and they get like
Yeah.
a newfound joy out of it.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's nice seeing people's photos too, especially ones they're excited with. Um, I guess this is snapshots and stories. I'm going to tell a story. I was at the superstore today. I have a friend that I see at the superstore every time I'm by to say hi. And
Yeah,
so she came running up to me. She said, "Did you get the thing I sent you?" And I said, "What thing?" And I told you the story about the Quaco, the Quaco lighthouse. She was the one that kind of
yeah.
told me about it. Anyway, she come
Oh,
running up.
cool.
She says, you know the lupins are out, right?" I said, "Yeah." She said, "Well, you just got to see this picture." So somebody had to actually taken a
Oh,
picture with it and actually shot that, and she showed it to me
cool.
today, and it was like, "Oh, that is so beautiful." I never would have thought about that. I said, "I've been driving around. I was in Moncton last week, and I'm driving around and I'm looking and I'm seeing lupins everywhere. And I'm thinking, oh, I've got to get some kind
So
of a lupin
many.
shot, but I don't know what to do."
Yeah,
Right?
yeah.
So just by being around other people and saying to them, your friends, show me what's on your phone today. What kind of pictures are on your phone? And I think you
Yeah.
might surprise yourself, and you
Hmm.
probably get inspired by some of the things that excites other people. Because when they're excited, you're excited. I think that's kind of how
Yeah.
it works, right? A smile begets a
Oh my
smile,
gosh.
a frown begets a frown, right?
Yeah. Yes. I don't know, like, especially, as conflicts happen in the world and that kind of thing, art becomes so important. It's an escape, but it's not just an escape, it's a reminder of how beautiful the world is. And it's
Mm,
okay to feel happy, and it's okay to feel joy about the things that you're seeing.
yeah,
Like, there's pockets of beauty everywhere. I guarantee, like, no matter how bad life is for anybody in any part of the world, if you look for something beautiful, it's there. And like, that's the beauty of humanity, that humans will find that glimmer of hope and beauty, and like, and cling to it.
yeah,
So
yeah,
yeah, I love that about
yeah.
photography, especially.
Well, that's the thing with photography because you can do so many types. We talk about photography, you know, a lot about different things, but the different types of photography that you can do, you don't necessarily have to be a portrait photographer to be artful and creative. You can be a landscape photographer. You can be. I've been playing with a lot of macro. I just love macro. If you guys haven't done macro before, you got to do it because it is so inspirational. I
Yeah.
just took a picture.
Yeah.
I was at another story. Here we go. I was at I was at Indigo, and they had this little box of four hands, right? They were hands, they were human hands, and they all had
Yeah.
different shapes of their fingers, and they were about this big each, right? So I bought them because I said I'm going to photograph those, and I did. I shot them the other day, and I put a black backdrop behind it. I lined two of them up, and I created some cool lighting, and just things like that. You know what I mean? When you're walking by something, I always now when I go to the store, I'm my own worst enemy. I go to Canadian Tire. I'm not thinking about hardware and fixing something. I'm thinking about what's in here that's cool that I can use for a photography shot.
Oh, you and I should and should not go shopping together.
Honest to goodness, I'll go through the hardware department and I'm looking for things that could be light modifiers, right?
Cool.
Something
Yeah,
that's got a bunch of holes in it. I think, oh, wouldn't it be cool if I shot the light? I could get these shapes and
that's amazing. Yeah,
yeah. But it whatever turns your whatever winds your to get that little monkey out of the box, right? And
yeah, exactly.
yeah,
And it can be something for later. It doesn't have to be something like, oh, I know what I need to do with that right now. It could be like, oh, I feel like that could be something later and just stash it away.
yeah, yeah. Because one day you'll find it's like, oh yeah, I was going to
Yeah.
do that, and all of a sudden that whole
Yeah.
thing sparked again, right?
Yeah, totally. Like yard sale, like it injects a whole new level of joy into like yard selling and that kind of thing.
Yeah,
Like inexpensive stuff where it's like, oh, I could just hoard that and see what happens later.
absolutely. Oh my gosh, I went yard sailing once, looking specifically for something, and every once in a while you find it. And I was
Mm.
looking for Life magazines specifically, and I was
Oh,
specifically looking for the 1950s to about the 70s, anywhere's in between. Well, didn't I come across a lady? She had a whole tub full, and I've got it in here.
wow.
And oh my gosh, the stuff that is in there. So if you don't know what to do with yourself, photographically, is that a word?
Photographically?
Photographically, thank you. You can I'll pop the top of that thing and then I'll start going through the magazines and the old ads and all the stuff that you see in there. It's like, oh my gosh, look at all these ads or the people or the stories of the times. And anyway, it's just unbelievable. But yeah, going yard sailing, looking for
Cool.
photography things to inspire or to create ideas with, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I want to go yard selling now.
I love it.
Yeah.
All right, what are we at for time? Oh, we got about another 3 minutes. So, uh, wow, it goes by quick when you're having fun and you're
Yeah.
talking
Just
about
to
this
hear from
inspiration.
people, like, yeah, and I'd love to hear from our viewers and listeners, like what their inspirations
Yeah,
are. If it's something we haven't mentioned or something we said resonated with you, I'd love to know.
yeah, I'm gonna put up our
Send share.
address.
Yeah,
There we go.
yeah.
Yeah, so send in some of your ideas to us. You can send them into snapshots and stories at outlook.com. And let us know. And if you got some photos, I mean, Kate showed me some photos today that floored me, especially that abandoned house. I had never seen those photos, and I'm just like, wow, I think I could get into that. So that in
Mm,
itself was a whole new type of photography that I never even would have thought of. But because she shared that, now I'm inspired by seeing that, and maybe that will
right,
give me the heart to go out and do it.
right.
So if you guys got some photos out there that inspired you at one point or another, send them in because we would love to talk about them the way we talked about these ones here today. So
Tell
send
me
those
where the
in to
abandoned
Snap.
houses are.
Yeah, yeah, let us know. I say yes now because I want to be part of it. But so
Yeah.
yeah, so send them into snapshots and stories at outlook.com. And again, if you're watching on us on YouTube, make sure you hit the like and subscribe and all those things you do with YouTube channels that you like. On Facebook, of course, share. And if you are watching TV and if you have the ability to watch Rogers TV, we're on there just about every day of the week. So again, thank you so much for coming along this journey with us. And today, I really enjoyed Kate. Today, I really enjoyed this, just to talk about stuff, and never mind the technical side, but really what's in here. And
Yeah, it's a heart conversation for sure.
yeah, yeah, I think it was great. And again, if you folks out there have stories you want to share with us, please do because they're always welcome here on the show. So that's, I guess, is it for this show. So thank you again so much for watching. Thank you, Kate, for
Yeah.
today because this was special. This was a special show, and we'll see you on the next episode of Snapshots and Stories. So for now, so long.
Bye.